What's up everybody, and welcome to Daily Curiosity. Today I'm sitting down with one of my mates, Benny, and I've known Benny for, man, how long have I known you for, dude?
I think I met you in 2006.
Damn.
That's a long time, man.
Yeah, I remember because the day I met you was the day my dad died. Like, it was such a trippy day, you know what I mean? It's like, I got the call from my mum that my dad had passed away, and I was on a surf with Benny. It's the first time I met him and a group of other friends. And they're like, do you still want to go out? And I'm like, yeah, well, we're here now, we can go as well. But it's like,
I remember they bailed, like they wanted to go in, and I'm like, do you want to just keep surfing? And we surfed like 6 hours straight, like until literally dark.
It was really, it's interesting. Some people go out of your life and come into your life. It's interesting times. It was like, it works out trippy like that. Look, today guys, me and Ben, we have like really cool chats all the time, and one of the really cool things that I've seen change in you over recent times has been the way that you've been able to balance your private life with your family life as well as your professional life. And the other, that's I really admire that, and I think it's really cool, like some of the ways you've sort of changed the way that you live and talk about values and stuff like that, and living by your values. And the other bit I wanted to tap into as well is just your success in business and how you've been able to sort of create this, you know, machine that you've got now, which is Pumped On Property, and I'll put all Benny's details in the description, and just being able to grow that, you know, and make it like really successful quite quickly.
I heard this quote, man, in one of my favourite documentaries on Netflix. It's the Eagle. Have you seen the two-part Eagles doco?
No.
I wasn't like an Eagles fan, like they're an old school band, but the doco made me one. And it's like, there's this guy in the band, Joe Grolf, and he went on a drug trip for like 25 years. Like, he was a real rocker. And he's like, when I look back at the journey, it looks like a perfectly orchestrated symphony playing just for me. And I think about going through it now, it almost gives me goosebumps, and it's like, it was fucking chaos, you know what I mean? And that's what I feel like my journey's been like, man. Like, from an outsider's perspective, it's just been like that. From my perspective, it's been like, you know what I mean? It's
and we've chatted about some of those ups and downs, and it's like, and I think that's really cool, you know, when you've got friends, you can have those chats and sort of share those experiences and get advice and stuff like that. And but I guess for you, man, if we tap into the business stuff first, for you, like, I remember when you started Pumped On Property, it was just like, it was a blog, you know, like, take us through, like, I think it's really interesting, it's like how you take something from that inception, you know, that idea phase, and then really, like, there's something that I admire in you follow through. Like, you get it done. So it goes from idea, and then it gets conceived into like something that's actually going to move along.
Yeah.
Take us through what goes on up here for you, like that. I think it'd be really interesting.
Like, I was talking to Lisa about it last night, because last night was New Year's Eve, and it was the end of 2019, and so like I did a big clearing last night, which was just like, thanks for that decade, this is my intention for the next one, like sort of setting for the new year, kind of goal setting, kind of just putting positive shit out there to attract it back. I know that sounds a bit airy-fairy, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, that's how it works, eh?
And we're talking about that, just like how much crazy stuff has happened in the last 10 years, and I read this book by Seth Godin, he's like the #1 marketing dude, and it's called Launch, and it's just, most people get caught up in the details of launching, and they're like, the website has to be perfect, the URL has to be perfect, I need all the insurances, I need all the correct videos, the perfect editing. And his approach is just launch it at 40% ready and just figure it out as you go. And I remember when I first started the business, man, like I was working as a marketing manager in the building industry, and 3 nights a week I just had a goal of writing 1 blog, and I did that for 2 years. So I literally wrote almost 300 articles.
And that's why I think people miss that, because I saw that sort of that part grow, but I guess people, if they just saw when you launched Pumped On Property, it's like, oh, it just started, but there was like a lot of hours that went in before that.
Yeah, man, like, you know, like hundreds, thousands, like literally thousands of hours of writing. And then someone asked me one day, like, hey, you know, who are you building with? And I was like, oh, I'm just building with this company. And then like 3 weeks later, because I was sharing my own story at that time, my own projects, and this other guy's like, who are you building with? And I'm like, this guy. And then when I introduced him to the builder's like, hey, we normally give a referral fee for this, how much do you want? And I'm like, fuck, what?
I get money for this?
He's like, I'm like, I've been writing, I've spent all this time doing it just because it was my passion, and I felt like so many of us do, like super alone. in my journey, because I'd bought a couple of properties by that point and there weren't too many of my friends that were doing it at that time. So I was like, I was mainly writing to like share my experience and like create a community of people that I could actually talk to about it.
Attract those like-minded sort of people, it's like.
For sure. And so like coming back to the launch thing, it's just, I went down and caught up with the most successful buyer's agent in Australia, like this guy, Nathan Birch, who runs Be Invested. Like he's a baller. Like this guy will be a billionaire before he's 40 type thing.
Damn,
like
Jesus.
he runs a good business, owns 200 or 300 properties. Like he's really doing stuff. And he was like, he looked at me in the eye, we had this epic conversation. Like I appreciate it so much because he made the time, and I just walked away from that going, fuck, I'm no different from this guy. He's just making it happen. And at the same time, like I walked back into work 2 weeks later, I got fired. And my wife said to me, I'm like, should I get another job? And she's like, no, like, you need to do this. We had like 20 grand cash in the bank. We were building a couple of properties at the time, had a 6-week-old second kid. And it was just all or nothing, like, and
I remember we had a chat at the old place and you were like, I'm freaking out, man, but I gotta do this.
I was freaking out so much, man.
Nothing good starts from though, like, oh, we're going so steady and we're just gonna, you know, take this leap. It's
it's like
stress. It's like normally
everyone that like I know that's, you know, you don't have to go all in. Like that was just a stage of life thing that I was at, but I'm sort of glad that it happened that way, because I remember with you, like I invited you around and I'm like, dude, I'm having trouble. At the time, 1 out of 10 people I was talking to were buying, and you're like, I think you can do like a lot better than that. And we wrote this.
The sales, we did the sales like guide
I still
sort of
use
thing.
it, man. Like I still use that
like
exact worksheet that we created like 5 years ago, and it works like crazy.
What? So just so people know, like, what do you do? What is Punt and Property? What do you do for people?
So what I believe is that if you're financially free, you create choices in your life that are different than if you're chasing cash. And I think once you're financially free, some of the fear disappears. It's replaced by new fear, just FYI. But like you sort of, I believe that when people can make choices based on what they really want to be doing or should be doing, the world becomes a better place. So that's what I believe, and the way that I live that is we help people buy property, and if they own enough of the right properties, they can get an income for life and not have to go to work anymore. Or they'll choose to work in something they love or spend more time
work
with
on your passion and stuff like that.
So that's sort of what the business is. And like, you know, I'm glad I launched when it wasn't right. Like the website sucked. Like it still sort of sucks, you know what I mean? Like,
is anything ever going to be perfect though? That's what I realized.
Man.
Whatever you look at, if you look back like 12 months, even 6 months, you'll be like, that's rubbish, you know? It's
fully. So yeah, like it's been a crazy journey, and we've helped about 400 or 500 people buy now, and it feels a lot more mature, and we're sort of slowly moving through those teething pains of a baby business, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's going, how many years did you say it's been going now?
4.5, yeah.
Oh man, no, it's doing good. It's doing good. And I guess for me, like watching you go through that, and like, you know, we've shared our discussions around like just that anxiety with, you know, the stresses, I guess, of work, but then also wanting to perform at a high level. For you, like especially in these last 12 months, take us through, I guess, your journey of how, like from what I see now to what I saw, say, this beginning of last year, is like a massive transformation from the way you live, like how relaxed you are, like you're a lot more just doing what you want to do sort of thing, you know. And I've seen a huge shift, and we've had discussions, but I'm like, take us through like what sort of triggered that, and then also, you know, what steps you put in place to sort of start living in a different way.
Well, 3 years ago, you and I went on a fucking bender in America. This is where the transition now started.
Was this your rock bottom?
this was like, you know, Josh and I were way too old for that trip, but we went away.
We did a big trip to America basically with a bunch of guys in their mid-20s and partied for about a week straight. I conked out after about 3 days. My body was cactus,
like so. You were smart. I remember like one night after Vegas, we rocked up to, where were we the next morning? In that epic grocery store in the States.
Yeah, at Whole Foods in Las Vegas.
And Josh looked me in the eye. I'm like walking through, I'm grabbing like lemon water, green juices, and Josh looks at me and he's like, I saw the damage you did to your body last night, and no matter what you put into it today, you cannot reverse it. And I was just like, fuck, man.
So true. So true.
But that's where it started, because I came back from that trip, and I came back scared. Like, I came back with fear because I overdid it. Like, I drank too much, and I'm not the same as Josh. Like, we're not big drinkers, and it actually, like, chemically affects my brain. It makes me feel super low. So I didn't realise I had anxiety at that point and that I was living in complete fear, but that's what it was. So the way that I overcompensated it was overtraining, overworking.
Yep, smashing.
A lot of other people do it through drinking, drugs, you know, dependent relationships, but I was doing it through just working, and I was in this growth phase of the business, so I had this channel, but in reality it was super unhealthy and toxic. So
yeah, because I could tell, because you normally would disappear for weeks and you're like, man, I've just been working.
Yeah,
it's like wow, that's not healthy, man.
No time back from 80 or 100 hours a week at that time.
Shit.
But it was the first time I was also making good money, and I was like, okay, I thought, you know, with the fear mindset it's going to stop, but then when you're really good at something, like, things just over time get better. So that's where it happened. And then about a year down the track, I was sitting around a friend's house. They own like a property, and I was sitting there and I'd achieved so many of the things that I wanted to achieve at that time, and I was just sitting there and I'm like, I just broke down. I'm like, I'm so fucking miserable. Like, I got no idea what to do. And one of them's like, well, why don't you take one day off a week? He owned a business as well, and he's like,
you do your Fridays then, eh? It's like...
And I took the Friday off, and like, that started to create space in my life for silence and not doing anything. And the first 8 weeks I was so all over the shop, and then because I didn't know what to do except work. Like, so much of my identity had become my job. I was just, as one of my mates said, he's like, you're fucking boring, bro. Like, he's like,
Who said that?
He's like, man, I'm like, dude, all I do is talk about work. And he's like, because that's all you do now. He's like, he's like, it's not like you're boring. He's like, but your interest is business now, and no one else is interested in it, so it's boring. And I was like, so I had to like find hobbies again, and this whole journey of like, and then bumping in, like, realizing like I was in a really bad place. Lisa, my wife's so supportive, and she's like, I think you should go see a doctor. So I did what everyone does, and went and got all the blood tests, all the body checks, thinking I like had cancer or something. I was feeling that bad. And he's like, you're fine. And I was like, I can't be fine. Like, something's going wrong with my mind. I can't think clearly. And he's like, it actually sounds like you should probably see someone.
Yeah.
Got the 10 free referrals. Had to like handle that, like just the whole identity thing, like, because I didn't believe in mental health issues until that point. And then started to see this psychologist, and that changed everything, you know what I mean?
Such a big change, eh? It's like...
Yeah. So like, I don't know how to like wrap that up, but...
Talk about the values, because that's what really interests me, like how you just said, look, I remember one day we were having a chat, and you're just like, look, these are my values, and basically I'm living my life aligned with my value system, like... Yeah, and that was just like, bang, and just everything sort of seemed to have shifted, you know, like it was...
For sure, like the psychologist's first job, right, if you go in as hot as I did, is to put out the fire. Yeah. And so we spent 6 months just chucking water on this massive fire that was my life. And every time I'd go in, I'd be like hyperventilating, and then the fire slowly cooled down. And then he's like, after a little while, he got these cards out. I read this incredible book called The Happiness Trap that he referred me to, and he said, the reason most of us aren't happy is because we have no idea what is actually important to us, not just on a thinking level, but on a feeling level. And then within those things that are important, no idea of how to live them day to day. And so he said to me that life is so simple. All you have to do is figure out what you enjoy and do more of it. And he's like, over time, that will change your entire life. And so we did this exercise, and I found for me, like most people, family, and I put friends in that category. Yep. Health, mental, physical, spiritual now, and wealth, which I put in contribution, business, all that stuff. So it's like, fuck, my life went from, hey, I say yes to all these things because I'm a FOMO, to this is what's important to me. And then he taught me this thing, which is like, when you make decisions towards your value system and think about what you're doing before you do something, as opposed to doing things away from your values, like, as you keep making those decisions towards, your life changes. And moment by moment, it's allowed me to get out of my head into the present, to stop obsessively planning and thinking about the future and living out there. It's completely changed my relationship with alcohol. I basically never drink anymore. I've stopped spending time on my phone, like literally leave phone at work.
You really, I like that. I've really adopted the way less time on the phone. Like, that's a huge help. Like,
yeah,
I treat it like a fast now. I'm like, I try not to look at my phone before lunch. You know, like no social before lunch or anything like that. And then a couple of days off it, and you realise you're not really missing out on anything. Like, there's not much that's really happening. It's just, it's so habitual. You know, you're so just plugged in. You pick up your phone, you start scrolling, and it just becomes automated. You take that stimulus away, and then suddenly it's like just nothing.
What I've learned is that so many of the people that I surround myself with, myself included, constantly live in a fight or flight state, constantly are living on cortisol or adrenaline, and the phone, like a heap of other things in all of our lives, is a trigger for it. You know what I mean? And I've just identified what my triggers are, because that was the work we did before values, like what is creating the flare-ups, and then the identification of those things means that you accept when you have those flare-ups that that's a choice, or you can just replace the habit with something else now, man. Like, you know what I mean? And so I've replaced the habit of looking at social media with making a decision to call one friend every single day of the year, which is 360 calls. It's like I still catch up with people, but now I'm actually in their life again. You know what I mean? Little things like just changing.
It's weird how like little things become habits, which then create massive changes in your life. But it's like the little things that accumulate over a period of time have some of the biggest impacts. Like,
fully, man.
Yeah.
Like some of the things that I think I've learned from you, man, is like, I believe now how you start the day is how you finish it. Yeah. And so you've got this incredible morning routine that is
like
just
my mobility.
Set, man.
Everyone gives me so much shit about it, but I'm like, I feel so much better after I do it. It's like,
firstly, it relaxes your entire body and gets your, like, because when your body's stiff, I think your mind is stiff. Once your body's relaxed, it's like, okay, like my mind is there too. Secondly, it puts you in the state of, you know, like, cool, like I'm fluid, I'm in flow for today, so the rest of the day will just flow out of that.
Yeah, I definitely think having something you do in the morning that's consistent, helps get you going. I still reckon there's a lot to be gained, like what Tony Robbins does with his cold immersion and stuff like that. Like, bro. I think that thermoregulation stuff, because that will put you into state faster than anything, like a cold pool or
I mean,
just a
you and
cold
I
shower.
jump in the pool like every morning of winter, but on the sunny coast now, my pool's like 30 degrees. It's too hot.
It is not worth it at all. Yeah. No, that's cool, man. No, well, I definitely want to read that book. So that book by Seth Godin was Launch.
Yeah.
Launch. Okay, I definitely want to tap into that. And I fully agree with what you're saying about start without having things perfect, because otherwise you never start. It just never happens. So,
you know, the thing is, like, most people think like investing or buying a business or starting a business is like jumping out of a plane. And what I realize now, it's like stepping off the gutter.
Yeah.
It is that easy to do. It's just, you need particular skills. Like, if you can't sell, if you can't market, and if you can't lead people, then go build those skills before you jump into business, and that will massively increase your success rate.
Yeah.
Like, I was lucky enough, like every person that I know that's successful doesn't get there on their own. Like, they talk about, like, you stand on the shoulders of giants. Like, I had 3...
If you want to go far, go together, whatever that quote is. Like, it's,
Like, I had 3 dudes that I worked with that were multi-millionaires, super young, that ran really successful businesses that were not dependent on their personal trading, their time for money anymore.
Yep.
And watching those guys and like realizing who I didn't want to be and what was good from them meant that when I came out to do it 7 or 8 years after watching these guys, it was just, oh, just take that from there and that from there. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to go out there and wing it or do it on your own.
I think our friendship circle is really interesting, because I think it's a really good group of guys who exactly that, like, lift each other up. Like, we talk about it a lot, but like after we hang out, like, it lifts your mood. Like, you think about people who give energy and then people who take energy, and our group is awesome because you get so much energy from our group. Like, it's a really good bunch of people. Like, and that's a big part of it. Hey, it's like
this is one of those things, man, that I've learned from this values thing is like, there's obviously old friends and family members that you're always going to have in your life that may not be on the same journey, but that's cool. Like, they'll always be important people. But for the people that I choose to hang around post the last couple of years, like, I culled a lot of people out of my life. I choose to hang out with people that are on the same energy frequency and that lift and that are positive, as opposed to, you know, negativity. People, like, everyone can have a shit day, a shit week, a shit month, and even a bad year, but I just don't need that from new people in my life, you know what I mean? Like I try and hang out with people that are positive, that are stoked, that I can learn from. Like me and you spend most of our time listening, asking people questions. It's like learning to me is everything, and growth, you know, as opposed to being sucked down talking about fucking, you know what I mean? Yeah, which I love the shit talk as well, but I want to be in a state where I'm feeling elevated and living my best version of my life, man.
Man, life's short, you got to make the most of it, eh? It's like you want to be doing good stuff with good people.
For sure.
That's why I work it down, man.
You know, what I would love to say, man, is I know a lot of people that watch this would be struggling with some sort of anxiety or depression, and whether you don't know it yet or not,
Yep.
I thought it was like me. I thought the thoughts in my mind were real. But over time I've created this like observing self that I know my thoughts are just thoughts. I know that I have 10,000 of them a day. I know that some of them, are, like with the human brain, are always going to be negative, and just
that's
not
what's
attaching
designed to
them.
keep us alive, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's like the thing. Like the hardware we're running is like super ancient, you know. Like our brains, they're amazing and they can do so many fascinating things, but they were designed to live in a prehistoric time, you know, and like protect yourself from all these dangers. And in today's modern society, it's really safe. But from what I read of that happiness trap, I think I'm about a third of the way through, and like exactly that, your thoughts are just thoughts. It doesn't have to be like everything is so real, you know, it's just what's going on inside your head. And
I was literally reading a book 2 nights ago called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and it's like, it's exactly that. Like this lizard, like I was at the dentist the other day and he's like, 50% of the people coming in now don't have wisdom teeth anymore. It's like evolution, like from that perspective, even like 10,000 years ago there was 2 sets of wisdom teeth because we needed it. He's like, within a couple of generations, he thinks that soon we just won't see them anymore because we don't need them, we're not losing them. And he's like, the same thing is true in this book with the mind. It's like we've developed this reptilian brain that's very protective, controlling, lives in fear, anxiety and depression. For, you know, and someone was walking into your tribe of 100 people, that was a legitimate deadly
big threat. Yeah, it's huge.
You know, we somehow managed to kill like 100 million humans in the century that we've just come out of. Like, and it's kind of like evolutionary, I think, and this is just a theory, but like now that we're changing to that next level where those threats aren't in our day-to-day reality, that part of our mind will slowly let itself go and will become more conscious. Like people come from a place where they want to help others, where they want to serve more than they want to fight and flee. And you know, that's super exciting for our kids and our kids' kids, and down the line, like shit will get better. That's where I'm coming from.
I'm an optimist as well. I believe it will get better.
I don't know, this has gone down. Josh and I are also very data sciencey guys.
We have some massive chats, so I'm like, that's why I wanted to capture Benny. But man, no, that's good. Like I really wanted to capture one of our chats. When we were at the recovery room the other day, one of the ladies who worked there, she was actually just listening in, and she's like, it's so interesting listening to you guys chat. She's like, we have some really good chat. So yeah, man, thanks for having a chat, man. That's really cool. Oh guys, I'll put all Benny's stuff in the description. So yeah, if you're looking at getting financially free, Benny's business Pumped on Property looks at like helping people find properties where they can create that sort of financial freedom. We sat down with our whole friends group with Benny, so I've got another kid on the way, so after that, that's definitely our plan, because yeah man, I don't think we're gonna have super by the time we get old, so
yeah,
be all good. But anyway guys, thanks for watching, and yeah, see you later.